Can you hear me?
Hendrik, we hear you on Zoom.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the boardroom's situation is.
Okay. Let me.
Can you hear us, Hendrik?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry, it was
Okay.
muted in here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we've just finished taking roll call and we do have a quorum. We have approved the agenda. Our next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last regular meeting, which was May 18th, 2022. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the minutes from the May 18 meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion about the minutes?
One
Yes.
mention that it mentions that I reported on the last Wellness Coalition meeting. I did not at the last meeting because I was not able to attend that particular Wellness Coalition.
Okay,
So
we can
that didn't happen.
we can strike that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes with the one strikeout, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. The agenda item next are action items, and the first one on the list is a certification letter dash City of Bernard.
Yep, I can explain a little background
Please,
to it. Yeah.
you go right ahead.
This came from Todd Felderman from Seneca Co. And apparently it's something that we do routinely. I've just never had to do it before. But by Bailey signing it on behalf of the Board of Health, it would just be an acknowledgement that the City of Bernard has a water well ordinance of their own. And that we agree with not permitting any new wells in that specific area they identify on the map. And that's because they have underground leaking storage tanks in that area. So I believe we just would need Board of Health approval for Bailey as the environmental specialist to sign off on this, saying the Board of Health supports Bernard's decision to not allow new wells be built in that area.
I don't have a problem with it, Samantha. In my almost 7 years on the board, this hasn't come up before, so.
Yeah, we were kind of confused about that too. We didn't know if it was supposed to go through the Board of Health usually or not. It came from the City of Bernard working with the DNR, and they're the ones who had told us to bring it through you guys.
Okay, so this is just basically saying in this specified area, no new wells are going to be allowed.
Right, and our department will not permit them.
Okay,
Is it only in that particular area, or is it the whole city, in quotes, of Bernard?
I thought it was just in the area they identify in the circle.
Well, but if they have their own well statute, then we wouldn't, and sewer thing, we would never be allowing, if they have their own statute, we'd never be permitting in the city, would we? Or,
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
so if in an incorporated area, someone wants a new well, they don't need to come to the health department, they go to the city.
if they're in the City of Bernard, I believe so, because the city already has their rules and regulations
Okay,
about
and it'd be
that.
the same if they were in the city of Piasta or Epworth.
Mhm,
if that city has their own ordinance.
right.
And I'm not actually sure if all the county cities do have them, but
Yeah, that's my understanding of it.
Yeah. Like Dubuque has one, and so we don't do any permitting in Dubuque, basically.
Mhm.
Um,
We still have some septic and wells in Dubuque in the city limits, but those we work with the environmental specialists from the city to get them switched over to their city water.
Okay.
We're not really adding any new ones and that type of thing. This has been submitted, I believe, to the county attorney
Mhm.
and to the city auditor, or the county
County
auditor,
Mhm.
Mr. Dugato. And they have both approved it, or,
Yeah, they both told us that we could move forward with bringing it to the Board of Health.
okay. And then do you think it's the appropriate procedure that every time this happens, if it happens again, that it has to come in front of us, or?
It sounds like it's an annual thing, so I think that would be up to the Board of Health, but if there's no changes to it, I don't see why it would have to come
Okay,
to you all every year. They have the environmental specialist of the department sign off on it, so.
okay. It might just be better, Bailey might feel more comfortable if it comes up to bring it to us
Sure.
again, but, okay. All right, is there a motion to approve this, what are we calling it? I'm sorry, certification letter for the city of Bernard? I'll make a motion to approve the certification letter for the city of Bernard. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Is there any further discussion?
Should it be dated? There's no date on it.
Okay, yeah, we would probably date it for tomorrow when Bailey's able to sign.
With that one addition, then there's been a motion and a second to approve the letter, certification letter for the city of Bernard. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay, that certification letter for the city of Bernard is approved. The next action item is the Board of Health. We were going to discuss the Board of Health, Board of Supervisors joint meeting preparation. And before we get started real heavily into that, I would just like to get the dates for our in-person interviews of the executive director before we forget that. We had chosen June 27th, I think, and July 7th for in-person interviews, and our recruiter prefers and really says it needs to be 2 days in a row because we will be using both days. And some people, some of the applicants may be traveling from out of the area. So it would need to be 2 consecutive days. So her first choice was July 7th and July 8th. So we need to check with the board, how many board members could be available on July 8th? Maybe we'll just raise our hand. So I didn't see Jess. But everybody else that's here is available,
Yeah.
July 8th.
We're missing Jess and
Adam.
Adam.
Is going, he might possibly be able to come on Zoom at 6 o'clock. He wasn't sure, so.
Okay, and Jess is on. Is she available on the 8th?
Jess, are you available July 8th for in-person interviews?
She said in the chat that she is.
She is?
Yep.
Okay, then I
Oh, okay.
think there's consensus that we can do it on July 7th and July 8th then.
And what time?
It was going to be 2 o'clock or after.
2 o'clock.
Mhm.
Okay.
That, I have to tell you, is probably subject to change depending on what the recruiter decides as her schedule, so. But at least we'll have those 2 dates for in-person interviews then. It'll be July 7th and July 8th. And now, before we get into this next discussion, I just wanted to bring something to the board's attention. The Board of Supervisors requested a joint meeting with us the last time I was before them. And it was talked about and it was decided to do the joint meeting on June 7th, is it? 6th, June 6th. But part of the reason I think that the supervisors wanted to see us again as a group, they also wanted some numbers available. And I think it was important for the budget director, Stella Rundy, to be there. And she's away next week on training, educational type thing. So she can't be there. So I'm wondering to this group out loud, whether we should put it off. We could not meet with them on the next week, which is the 13th, I think, because it's Supervisor Harley Potoff won't be there that day, and they're trying to keep the schedule light. So the next available date would be the 20th of June if we wanted to go forward then. So on the 6th, if we go before the Board of Supervisors, we will not have one of our resources, which is the budget director.
But if we wait till the 20th, we will already have had the first review of health director candidates.
Yes.
Mhm. What time do you have in mind for the 20th
It would be around, I believe they said around 10:15
in the morning? Okay,
And there'll be a Zoom option also.
okay.
It'll be a meeting at the chambers in the courthouse.
This is Jess. Could you just repeat the date on that, Sandra?
The date that it's currently scheduled for our joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors is June 6th, Monday, June 6th. And we're just now starting a discussion as to whether we should put it off to June 20th.
Got it. Okay. That's what I thought you said.
It would be my preference to keep it on the 6th, just because I thought partially what we were doing was making the whole argument about who we would hire for a director based on how many people would be in the office of the health department. So I think we should leave it on the 6th. I think we can get budget numbers from Stella before she goes on vacation so that one of us could be knowledgeable on the numbers and could speak on that behalf. But I think waiting till the 20th is too long.
I agree. The sooner the better.
Yeah.
The purpose of this meeting is it specifically to discuss numbers or also the concept of why we need to expand?
The why.
The why.
The why
So we
is-
don't have to wait for Stella for that.
No, not for that, but the why and the how, I think, are real important. And
Yeah.
there's been reluctance expressed about hiring somebody with temporary funds. Because in 3 years, when the funds are gone, then what? So there is some concern with the supervisors that they've expressed about that. So we were hoping, I mean, Stella could answer those questions if the supervisors had questions. Here's my fear. We're there, we're all there, we're giving our presentation. And there's a question for Stella Rundy, and she's not there. And then what? Then it'll be really easy for the supervisor to say, we'll just have to wait and talk to Stella Rundy about this. I mean, that's a possibility. That's my fear.
Well, but then we can always get the answer from Stella when she returns.
Right,
One
but
way
they
or the
won't be, they wouldn't be able to make a decision that day.
Right
is what
then
I'm
and there.
saying.
But if we wait till the 20th, they wouldn't make that decision
Anyway.
anyway. So, and Tom's been involved with the budgeting process.
Yeah.
So I would
My
think he would have some,
My recommendation is don't waste your time having the meeting without Stella.
oh, really?
Okay, okay.
Because my experience is that no matter how many questions you answer, they're going to want the budget director involved.
And
I
I would,
think,
yeah.
I think doing it without Stella, we'd be regrouping the 20th of June or later and doing it again.
Right.
Good point.
That was a fear, and I just think to put our strongest foot forward, it would be good to have all of our resources there in the room, which would be, and I'm not sure they're all available, but Dawn, the human resources person, Dawn Sherman. I think Stella Rundy is very important to be there. And even Mr. Delgado, Ed Raver, all of those people, if they're in the room with us, because there are resources, they might be able to assist us.
Sam, what's your summer schedule look like for the 20th?
I'll be here for the 20th. Yeah, that works for me too.
And Bailey?
Yeah, they should be here.
I mean, even if one of you would have to be on Zoom. I just think it would be good to hear from the staff who are here.
Absolutely, yeah, I do.
Yeah, we can make that work.
Do we have any confidence that the 20th will work for the supervisors?
No. But Supervisor Ann McDonough, I believe, is with us tonight. So I could pose that question. Supervisor McDonough and Supervisor Podhoff, would it be possible to change our joint meeting from June 6th to June 20th with your schedules?
So this is Ann, obviously. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Harley is the chair, so, and I can ask that the agenda item be placed. We all can do that. So it's not, I don't know that there's a conflict in our schedule. I guess I still would just suggest that you really are focused on, obviously your recruitment. That is the strongest foot forward. And then I think Stella needs to likely get some direction from Supervisor Wickham, I think, had the questions about, and I don't know that we have that. Like, what is it that the Supervisor Wickham is needing? So anyway, and Harley won't be able to comment on this because we form a quorum here. So, but that's kind of still, I think, the missing piece. I think I've advocated for several things, but I think that that's the other connection that you need to have is no matter what the presentation is and what you say to the Board of Supervisors, what might be the specific questions that the supervisors hold. So Stella needs to do likely some more background work for you as well.
I guess that's a good point. Thank you, Ann. We've put together our thoughts, we've put together some numbers, but we don't have the benefit of having Jay Wickham's specific questions. So we may not be hitting the mark. Can we get that from Stella?
I think so.
Okay.
Stella can talk to.
So I'd ask that Sam, bring back those questions to us as a group. So we can make sure we've got those issues addressed.
So is there a motion to change the date of our joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors from June 6th to June 20th?
This is Jess. I'll motion.
Okay, we have a motion and Dr. Horowitz has seconded it. Is there any discussion about changing that? Any further discussion?
No, just to make sure, 6:20, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that works.
All right.
Yeah, my only comment by way of discussion is we need to make sure we know what we're being asked to provide in terms of an answer.
Correct.
So.
And we need to be real sure about what we're asking for too. Very, very definite that this is what the Board of Health is asking for. So I think that giving us till the 20th is maybe a little good cushion there. And I'll be glad if Ms. Rundy can be there. So, all right. Well, let's see. Did I take a vote? No. Is there any further discussion on this change?
I did make a printout of the notes from the interview that I had with the Lynn County Director of Health, and I wonder if we could all get that in a packet again, just so we can, I can read this for you, Sam.
Yeah.
That we could all have that too, because like you weren't on the board yet, Jess wasn't on the board yet, and we
I
learned
guess
some
it's
very
some
interesting things, yeah, about just how much bigger these other agencies in the other counties are,
Yeah.
even though they're relatively the same size as ours.
Samantha and I actually sat down with Stella Rundy yesterday, and she gave us some guidance on that county thing. And she says that they always look at different counties, not the ones we've been looking at. They look at, do you have that?
Yeah, I
right?
do. It's in this
Okay.
that I gave here. It's on the last page. Woodbury, Story, Dallas, and Potawatomi are the ones that they look at when talking about budget.
Right. So I think as far as our aspirations, I think we can use the counties, the larger counties. But as far as actually comparing apples to apples, we probably kind of have to look at these counties too.
Well, and we should.
Yeah.
We should definitely be contacting or looking at their websites or whatever to see, because the more information we have, the better presentation we can give.
Right.
And the more educated we are.
All right, so then any other discussion about moving the date?
Well, the only other comment I'd make is I realize that these counties are being used probably because they're close in terms of population.
Yeah, I think that's
But
why.
the counties that I've put together in the sheet before that are the counties that are close to us in major size. And from my seat in the park, that's what we've been compared to in terms of our performance.
Okay, yeah.
That's why I focused on
Yeah,
those.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, well, it'll be good to look at all of that and kind of get it organized into a packet, I think, so. All right, so is there any other discussion about moving the date of the joint meeting? Hearing none, then let's take a vote. All those who are in favor of moving the date from June 6th to June 20th, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, so we will move the date, and I appreciate Supervisor McDonough for making arrangements so that we can get on the 20th. So, all right, so now we're going to talk a little bit. We just want to talk about how to present this and what to present. And Samantha, as our interim director, has some ideas on this, and I think I'd like to turn the floor over to her so that she could present these to you, and then we can have a robust discussion about it.
Yeah, thanks. This might stir the pot a little bit and change up what we've been talking about, so I apologize in advance. But I think also at the same time, it addresses a lot of the concerns Jay Wickham was expressing when we did present to him the last time. And a lot of my thoughts that I just put into these few slides are based off of what I've heard the Board of Health talk about in our needs and our staff needs and what the supervisors are looking for. So when we look at the ARPA proposal for restructuring our health department, we still have the same 4 goals, which are to increase the scope of services provided by us, increase awareness of our department and our services that are available, increase our community collaboration, and increase our reach to county residents. So I question, how can we effectively achieve these goals through ARPA funds? And I came up with 4 options. The first is to continue moving forward with our current ARPA proposal, which asks for 3 additional staff. And like Sandra said, we've noticed some pushback or question from some of the supervisors, as we know that they're not interested in funding staff with those funds. So that's kind of where the second option came to mind. Develop a plan for increasing our staff through our annual budget, which was mentioned to us by the supervisors as well, and then propose ARPA funds be used for something like strategic planning for our health department. Third option would be a combination of the first 2 options with some scalable differences. And then the fourth is maybe something new. My main thought with the restructuring plan is that was developed a year ago when the department looked completely different than it does today. And also during that time, things with COVID looked completely different, and just our needs for the department and our services we were providing have changed in that time. So I think before we move forward with that plan, we should have a conversation about what still matters and maybe what doesn't matter as much or what could look different. So the first option, like I said, moving forward with our current ARPA proposal. Since we started presenting to the Board of Supervisors, we did get our clerk position moved from part-time to full-time, which is really exciting. Once we're fully staffed, we'll be at 4 full-time employees. But the proposal that we have been presenting to them does still include those 3 new staff members, which are a lifestyle specialist, a healthcare services oversight specialist, and a community education and outreach specialist. And just like it happens now, the medical and nursing services would still go through the Visiting Nurse Association. And in the agenda packet, Stacy put together a list of all those staff and the services and boards and commissions that they're currently working on. So that's helpful context. Yeah, sorry.
No, I've had quick question, Samantha.
Yeah.
The healthcare service oversight specialist, I could not really figure out what the exact role is. I read your description in the meeting material. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more about it so I understand it better.
Yeah, I don't have that one directly in front of me. Sorry about that.
Okay.
But it was mostly focused on continuing or strengthening our partnerships with our hospitals and healthcare centers.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it broke down the job description in that document called Exhibit A, I think it was. And they're really focused on facilitating communication between the health department and all of our medical providers. That was something that kind of came out of COVID-19,
Yeah.
at least from my perspective. We didn't have as close of relationships with those services the way that we do now. And so that position would mostly be responsible for continuing those relationships and then overseeing our subcontract with the VNA.
Okay.
But like I said, in the year since writing this, I think that that position could easily be absorbed in other ways.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, having a liaison, that's what I wanted to understand a little bit more. That makes perfect sense. Thanks for clarifying, Samantha.
Yeah. So then the second option I talked about, developing a plan to increase staff through our annual department budget, and then propose ARPA funds used to support our strategic planning. And this is something I think the supervisors would be more interested in funding through ARPA. They've talked about getting Stella involved with looking at our annual budget and finding a way to increase staff that way, which is what we've already been doing. Our environmental specialist position actually did not exist until I think 2019. So the supervisors add that based on a need that the Board of Health found. And then same with upping our clerk from part-time to full-time. So that's the traditional way that it's been done. Some pros to doing it this way would be timing. I think that we're in a time of change for the health department and the Board of Health. And so it could be a really fun time to be an employee at the county health department, going through this strategic planning and all the opportunity for change. It's a one-time cost. Like I said, that's much more appealing to the Board of Supervisors. I would allow a lot more informed decision-making about the staff we're hiring. Kind of to Hendrick's point about the healthcare specialist, I don't know if that's the most informed position that we could have at our department. And so doing some strategic planning would open our eyes to positions that might be more beneficial. And then with that, it would provide direction for future work with the department and the Board of Health. It would also, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so if I understand that model correct, the ARPA would only be used for the consultant for strategy planning. And then we would ask for a firm, like for more permanent budget through the county. Is that correct? Did I understand it correctly?
Yeah, I think that's one
Okay.
way that we
Okay.
could approach
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
So are you suggesting, Samantha, that there may be ways to absorb within our budget?
I don't think so. I think we'd
Okay.
have to work with Stella
So
to
our
add those
budget would have to
positions.
grow.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
that's where Stella comes in
But it wouldn't have to grow to 7 new
right away.
right away.
Yeah.
And at least with a strategic plan, we could firmly develop why we need these people, exactly what their roles would be. Yeah.
Yeah. Another big plus to doing it that way would be, it would include more voices in the conversation. To a fault of the original proposal, I don't think that other stakeholders and community partners were included in that thought process. And so taking a better look at that list that Stacy put together for the VNA, or looking at how we work with the city health department might be more beneficial to finding exactly what those staff should do. And that would just identify those gaps a lot better too for us. Provide an outside perspective, which I think is really important. And then also it would align really well with our after action report for COVID and our China hit, which are also going to highlight some gaps in our services too.
Can I ask you another question, Samantha?
Yeah.
Just playing it out in my head, for a second. If we would follow the first proposal to say, okay, we ask for 3 new positions funded by the ARPA with a caveat that they will end after 3 years unless we figured out something else. Now, when you fund the department, I'm pretty sure you're heavily involved in grant writing. Is more people beneficial to the process of grant writing, or does it matter? You know, the reason I'm asking is sometimes when you start too small, you won't simply have the time. I mean, I'm pretty sure that during COVID, neither you nor Patrice nor anybody else would have had time to sit down and write a ton of grants. And I'm wondering if there's a sweet spot where you say we've got enough staffing that we are also getting good and can expand our grant applications versus, yes, we get by, but we don't have really much time and capacity to do this. I have no idea. That's why I'm asking. What's the situation? How would these two things play into it?
Sure. I think that's a hard question to answer because our department hasn't been fully staffed since I've been there. So I don't know the capacity of a 4-person department.
Okay. No, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of is one of the cons that I listed. This process would be slow moving compared to getting 3 new staff right away.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would take a lot more time. You can see that in the timeline too. And it deviates from our original plan, and it does leave some uncertainty, which I know the Board of Health was concerned about having that uncertainty when also trying to hire new staff. I did talk with Becky Nowacek, our contact at IDPH. She said that Black Hawk County recently did some strategic planning, and that costs anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000.
That was through the University of Northern Iowa.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I mean, in terms of ARPA funds, I don't think it's a huge ask. Which when we talked about this yesterday, Sandra, I, and Stella, we talked about a third option, which is maybe a combination of those first 2, using scalable options. So I just put out 2 examples. One would be asking for the funds to do a strategic plan while also asking for ARPA funds for at least 1 staff member. I think that's a lot more reasonable for the Board of Supervisors to agree to. And I think we can pretty easily, without strategic planning, identify what that 1 staff member would be doing.
Yeah.
And then another example, adding 2 staff, no strategic planning. I think there's a lot of flexibility here. So I just wanted to lay out options, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and have a conversation with the Board of Health about what you think.
This is Jess. Sam, what? Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead, Jess.
Do we know, thanks. Do we know, are there organizations capable of doing this type of strategic planning in this time frame? So I know we're talking in the next couple of months. So I don't know, do we know if there are even organizations who would be able to facilitate that for us?
I haven't reached out to specific organizations, so I don't know their capacity at this moment. But Becky Nowacek, our contact with IDPH, has many contacts through different universities in the area that do help with strategic planning.
Thanks.
I think when it might have been Black Hawk County when they did theirs, it took 8 months, I think it was. So it's a long process.
Doesn't go overnight. Yeah, that's
No.
right. That's right.
It's a long it's a very important and needed process, and it's actually been on our table since we came onto the board, and we were kind of waiting for the new executive director to come on board to get that started, but definitely it's needed. I have an opinion about this, of course, and I think it would be wrong. It would be a mistake for us to withdraw our current proposal. I don't oppose adding a new proposal with asking for something else, but I think taking our old proposal off the table is sort of like negotiating against ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're given an offer, we haven't gotten an acceptance or a counter offer, and we're going to go back and give another offer. And it makes, it puts us in a weak position, I think. And it might make the Board of Supervisors think we don't really know what we want. And that is one thing that a couple of them, I think it was both Harley and Jay, have said to me, we really want to know what the Board of Health wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't think we should remove our proposal. The Board of Supervisors can certainly tell us, no, we're not gonna do that. We'll let you hire one person, but we're not gonna let you hire three. But I'm not sure that we are the people. We aren't the ones that should take that off the table. That's my opinion. And I wanna hear everybody else's also. I think the strategic planner is really important, and I would totally endorse asking for that, but I wouldn't want to take our growing organization off the table.
Yeah. So look, maybe I can also share my view on this. Looking at the proposal, the three new positions, the education, the lifestyle, and the sort of medical liaison oversight specialist. I agree with you, Sandra, that we definitely need a strategic evaluation. I think we will not get past that. The way I see it, if you take any of these three positions, we don't have experience with it yet, what these positions do, how they work out, how they can be utilized. At least I don't have this. I don't know, Samantha, you might have a different insight into that because some of the staff covers that function, but it might also give us an opportunity to, let's say, maybe check out two of these positions to see how do they fit in what we do and get a strategic view on what else do we need and in what time frame, rather than having no strategic. I mean, did I understand it right that you would ask for three positions and the payment for the strategic evaluation, Sandra? Did I understand that right?
We have already asked for the three positions. That's been on the table since last September.
Yep.
And I've actually appeared before the Board of Supervisors twice, arguing for that. You know, we want three staff members. I'm not wedded to the description, their job description. I'm not necessarily wedded to that, and I don't know if that's something we could kind of tweak a little bit when we go in front of the supervisors. But I don't think we should take that off the table. I'm prepared to have the supervisors say, you know, we can't let you have three all at once, but maybe one here, one next year, you know, and I understand that, but I think that's what they would do, not what we would do, because what we see is our ultimate goal is let's grow this so that we can do what the law says we're supposed to do. We're supposed to protect and improve the health of our jurisdiction, which is the county. Right now, we know that we have some gaps. And so we decided this almost a year ago, that we need to expand our staff by at least 3 full-time positions. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm just trying to think out if we need to compromise, what would that look like? What would that look like?
Right.
And
but
I
compromise,
We can wait.
where
and
will
see
we
what they offer
compromise?
us.
Will we compromise here, or are we going to compromise there?
I agree to compromise there. I think
yeah, no, that's okay.
at
That's
some
totally
point, it would be really great to have a strategic plan. So that we have, you know, a formal idea of what we need, but it's you know, I'm new on the board, and I just can't believe for this entire county, we had 2 employees or 2. There's so many things, and there's so many areas of health that can come under our jurisdiction that are separate. There's you know, wellness, there's food insecurity, there's housing. It would be wonderful if we could get ourselves organized in such a way that it comes all under our umbrella. And to do this, we need more staff. It would be great to have a strategic plan, but I was going one way or the other, but I think well, let's ask for the whole thing. And then see what we can get, and at least we know what we want and what we're going to work toward, and we may not get it all at once, but we can try.
We can't control what the supervisors will agree to.
No.
But we can't sell ourselves short.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I agree with Sandra that
I agree.
I don't think we should reduce our ask simply because we don't know what they want.
And we can always tweak exactly what the responsibilities of these various people, what the roles will be.
Right.
And until you start in a plan, sometimes you don't know exactly what you're, you know, exactly how it's going to go, and you tweak things as you evolve.
See, I
We
think
need
if,
to evolve.
if we had been in a different situation and last fall, if we had maybe done our strategic plan then, we'd be in a better position. But to start the strategic plan now, thinking we're gonna add staff pretty quickly from that strategic plan,
Yeah,
that's not
right.
gonna happen, I don't think. It's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
And budgeting will start soon, but it really doesn't get into high gear until sometime in November, I think. And who knows what will happen with the budgeting process, you know, we
Yeah.
don't know.
Right. Yeah, I agree. We need to add to the proposal, which is probably the last thing you won't really wanted to do, but I think we need to add that strategic plan. That's gotta
Yeah.
be, that's gonna drive the rest of the
Yeah.
proposal. That's going to be, the main portion.
Yeah.
And then our additional staff is how we're going to meet that.
Yeah, and if we can get that strategic plan going pretty quickly, we'll be ready for the budgeting process maybe, you know, but we'll
Mhm.
really have to move on it, so.
So Marcia, I liked what you said, because I think really what it comes down to are wants and needs. And we're beyond wants, we're at needs.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what, I think that too. Do you think that, Samantha, that we're, because you're the department.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I obviously think that we need more staff. I think we're doing a lot, and I think that in this past year, we've accomplished a lot more than we have in the past, but definitely need more staff.
Yep.
The thing I'm just thinking about as I listen is that when we met with Stella, she had mentioned that if we're going to continue moving forward with our proposal for more staff, we need to find job descriptions and roles for them. So I guess that's where my thought came in, that strategic planning would let us know what those job descriptions would be. But if we continue to move forward with the jobs that we have on there, I think we need to spend some time tweaking those now.
Well, you've outlined
Yeah.
what the job
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I guess I'm
It's-
just
It's the
mentioning.
HR department's role to build the job description.
Okay.
I think we've outlined what we expect
Yeah.
of
Lot of
this new
detail.
staff,
Mhm.
so.
This is Supervisor McDonough. I just want to support Tom's correct. That is, HR will give you a job description that comports with what you're looking for. And Dawn Sherman will be able to help you with that.
And another question came up yesterday, will these employees be union employees? And Dawn can help us with that. But probably they will be unless they're defined as management somehow, so.
It seems like there are precious few positions that can be carved out as
Management,
management.
yeah. We can't have 5 managers and 2
No,
employees.
probably
Sounds
not.
off balance.
Yeah. Well, okay, well, let's see. Where does that put us? That puts us, I think, we want to go forward with the original proposal, and we want to add a ARPA proposal requesting strategic planning.
I think that's a good idea, Sandra.
Okay,
Yeah. And
I think
and let
that's a
the
good-
supervisors put the knife to where the budget's gonna get
Right.
slashed.
right. That's kind of what I thought, because we're open to compromising.
Mhm.
But let's let them get it, let them come back with something for us, you know, to compromise about. Let's not compromise with ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
They-
go ahead.
You know, they have very high expectations of the Board of Health. And,
Supervisors do?
yeah,
Mhm.
but the county does. And I think it kind of boils down to you get what you pay for. And if you can't support it, you're not gonna get it.
Yeah, at the last supervisor, that I was at, the last supervisors meeting, Jay Wickham made the comment that we've always had the funding for public health. We've always had the money. And that was where it stopped. So I don't know exactly what he was talking about. And then he said something about it's a matter of priorities. So I think our job, when we meet with the supervisors, is to show why it's a priority, that they spend some money on this department. So that kind of leads us to the next discussion. How are we going to present this? Samantha had a present, she's already presented to the supervisors.
A suggestion I would have is, when you write a grant, like a SAMHSA grant, you put everyone's curriculum vitae, you put people's resumes. This is the most, this is the dream Board of Health with your background and your experience and your broad depth of knowledge. And I think that that's how you say that this is the public asking for this through the people charged and hired to do public health, and you're volunteering your services. So I just think that should be an attachment. Who is the Board of Health? This isn't, some folks gathered. It's volunteers who come from very specific defined backgrounds to pull that. So I would just think that's an important thing to note.
Thank you. I think it is too. In fact, last time I spoke to the Board of Supervisors, I did go through the qualifications of our board members, because I think it is important. Not only does the law say we have to do this, but we've all got some experience and we see what we need. So I think it's important. But yes, the qualifications of the board, I think we should make that front and center.
I think one of the points that I found really striking was the last 2 years, we were all in reactive mode, totally in reactive mode. This was really something that rolled over us, and we did a decent job getting things done and contained and doing this. But imagine how this would be no matter what, opioid crisis, COVID, whatever it is. If we have a lean structure in place like we propose, and it is a lean structure, it's not an overburdened structure at all. And we all of a sudden have the specialist, and we have the networks, and we have the working relationships and the staff that can handle this, and we don't have any lag time like we had this time. I think this is something that I see in the future. If you have your first airplane crashing down in a disaster and you find out your firefighters had a problem with logistics or with engines or with water or whatever, do you want to say next time we try it the same way? Or do you say, well, maybe we should get this fixed because next time when we get hit? The problem with public health is really, and that's something that you have to understand, it's a similar service as police and firefighters. You do not necessarily need and see it on a daily basis, but you very quickly notice it when it's gone. And I think that's something that we should emphasize, and it's not only COVID. There are many other things, other diseases, other infectious diseases, other problems in the community, obesity, substance abuse, mental health, that we can actually improve and actually get our community, as we promised to do, to a healthier spot, and that we can only do if we have at least some basic structure in place and some basic personnel. And my opinion is, based on what Sam has proposed and what the discussion yields here, we're not asking for like an overburdened staffing. We're asking for what we would need to accomplish this mission.
I agree. I think right now, if we were to pivot, we wouldn't be able to because we don't have the resources available. But if we had these extra people, if we needed to focus on behavioral health, we could, because we would have a lifestyle specialist. We would have somebody who is a liaison with the health, not only physical health, but behavioral health. I would add that in there, Sam. I'm always having you add behavioral health into everything. But we can't do that right now. We have one environmental specialist and one director, and that's it. So if we had another major thing happen, we are very lean, like Hendrik said, we are so lean, we are too lean. And we need to have more muscle on the
Plus,
staff.
our community has a lot of resources, but they're so scattered. With staff, that person could then make sure they had good liaisons with the resources and pull everything together and be able to respond to whatever the disaster is.
Well, and just as a personal anecdote, I sat in on the interview for the clerk. And so it was Bailey and Sam and me and the interviewee. And both Sam and Bailey had to keep leaving because they had things going on in the office And we couldn't run an effective interview because it was me and the interviewee, because they were both pulled out of the office. And that is not a professional way to run a health department either. So that just opened my eyes to just how stretched thin our staff is.
That's what
I think,
Go ahead, Sam, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think Amy used the word to pivot, but I think we're at a real pivotal kind of moment for the county Board of Health and the health department. So we are in need of a director. We are in need of an assistant director. We have multiple, other positions that we would like to post, and we have the opportunity to make this strategic plan and kind of shape what we anticipate the next, 5 to 10 years to look like for our county and our county health department. So I think this is really an opportunity for us to say, this is where we would like to go. These are the resources we need, and supervisors, please give us the funding to get there.
Yeah, I agree. Well said. But back to how to present this. Does everyone want to speak? Number one. Number two, Samantha and group, should Samantha give the PowerPoint presentation that she's given previously?
Yes, that would be helpful.
I think they need to be, the supervisors will need some reminding of what we're asking for.
Samantha, sorry, can you share that with us again? I just want to make sure if we speak, we should probably also focus on different aspects that we can contribute.
Yeah.
And I think it would be great if we do it complementary to Samantha's presentation, which probably will be first to go, and then we can speak to it as individual board members.
Yes.
That would be my strategy. I don't know what you guys think.
Go ahead.
I agree. We're not changing our initial proposal.
Mhm.
We are adding to it.
Mhm.
So that could be a separate part of the presentation, the addition of the strategic plan and the costs associated. Then I think individuals could chime in an area that matches with their background. I'd be willing to speak to budget and comparisons, but
Okay, let's mark that down.
That's usually the voice that everybody listens to, Tom.
Right, yes. Okay, Tom's gonna speak about the budget.
I can
Dr. Schultz, what would you like to speak about?
I can speak about health challenges, at least the medical side, like obesity, opioid, and I don't feel comfortable. I think Amy is a much better speaker about behavioral and mental health, what this entails, and also disaster preparation. I mean, I could speak to medical problems that we will face in the years to come that we have to address, and what I think we need to have in place in order to have a reactive and fast response team in public health for anything that hits the community.
I can speak on behavioral
Okay,
and disaster.
Okay.
And well, I mean, but a lot of what we need to do too is partnerships.
can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, I can talk
Yep.
about that a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, and I think all of these presentations should only probably be, what would you say, 5 minutes at the most, wouldn't you say?
Max.
3 to 5 minutes, because there's a bunch. I don't really plan on speaking because I've said my piece. And I think they kind of nicely asked to see the rest of you the last time I was there. So Marcia Horowitz, would you like to talk about?
I don't know what I would add beyond what Hendrik and Amy are going
Well,
to say.
I think you
What
can
should
talk
I-
about healthy neighborhoods from your
Okay.
being in the,
Okay,
that coalition.
okay, fine, yeah.
And
There's
you kind of mentioned earlier about, Dubuque is pretty well set because there's a health department in the city, but our outlying areas do not. And I think you could speak to that because you spoke a little bit earlier about how those areas could be left behind.
Okay.
Sounds good. And then Adam will be speaking about, because he's not here.
Environmental
I'll
specialist.
do the wrap up.
But if Adam can make the meeting, maybe he can talk something about, maybe he'll be willing to talk something about the environmental division.
Yeah.
Samantha has mentioned to me that she actually thinks now that we're kind of boosting their activities, the environmental section, they could use more help, actually, I think you were saying.
Yeah.
And then also, you know, the Food Policy Council, who kind of gets their money through us, they're asking for money and or some of our staff to help them. So that's another thing.
That's
Maybe I
the
could maybe say,
Lifestyle.
lifestyle specialist,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll try to say something about that because I can't say that I really understand it, but I'll try to say something about how we could assist them if we had more staff.
Just maybe you could talk more about the future of public health, since you've got a
Yeah.
master's or, you know, advanced training in public health, but the rest of us don't have
Yeah, absolutely.
trends and forecasts or something.
Absolutely. Thank you
Right.
for that idea. I was kind of struggling.
And I just think, again, this whole thing of, there are so many different groups in this community that seem to be working, doing their thing on their own, and there isn't any like big collaboration to keep things organized. I think, you know,
Yeah,
I can
Marcia,
say
I think-
something about that.
I think Samantha was getting that started. you know,
Yeah, oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
but you can't do it by yourself. You had to do the whole thing.
Orchestration. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's a big one.
orchestration, that's a
Yeah.
good term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so.
And maybe, you know, maybe that concept of orchestration is, I'm just thinking maybe that's kind of the central idea of where we envision our department going, and an idea to take to that strategic planning, you know, whoever we hire, is to say, we have a lot of really great services in our county. We're just not working together to maximize all of them. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And so
Yeah.
what we need is to pull it together.
Yeah.
Right,
And
that's
the-
true. That's because that's what we found, Sam and I found out when we were working on my proposal. And we'd go to Crescent and we found out what they were doing. We went to Hillcrest and we found out, and we were like, wow, we did not have any idea. Why aren't we working together? Why are we all doing our own thing in our own little
Yeah.
silos? So, yeah.
Yep.
And for that, you need a liaison. For that, you need somebody
Exactly.
who walks around and knows
Right.
how to connect the dots or bring it to the board to give us advice on which dots can be connected. I mean, that is a full-time job, I learned. Yeah.
And I think we should probably try to put a 20-minute time limit on this presentation.
Mhm.
Yeah, because, you know,
yeah.
it's one of many work sessions they'll
Right,
have.
right.
Yeah.
Samantha, your PowerPoint takes what, maybe 5-10
Yeah,
minutes?
at the
It doesn't
most.
take very
We've
long.
already
Yeah.
seen it. So.
Yeah. And then what, and then there's 6 of us that are gonna speak, at least 6
Well,
times
I
3,
can talk
18.
for 3 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, because really it should just be bullet points, you know,
yeah,
or, you know, have some things written down if there's questions afterwards that you could answer from there, but
okay,
yeah.
yeah. All right, so if we all, I mean, then 3 to 5 minutes, if that'll be plenty. And if you can actually come up with 3 minutes of talking, that's actually kind of hard, so.
Right.
Yeah. All right, well, very good. I think that's a good plan. Anything else you think we need to discuss?
So in terms of this, it's all nice to sit here and think that I'm gonna go away and do 3 minutes on budget. Amy's gonna go away and do 3 minutes. If we follow our normal schedule, we have another meeting prior to the 20th. Should we try to each get our section together
That's a good idea.
and discuss it
Yep.
at that meeting?
Very good idea.
I mean, some of the supervisors may be on the meeting, but that'll just give them an extra chance to,
Think about it.
yeah.
Tom, do you want to say some words and then followed by maybe Samantha? You both did sort of a interesting study of other counties and how much they're spending per county citizen. I just found that to be really interesting. So do you want to talk about that now? Or?
Okay, I can. I just, well, this piece of paper that you have in front of you. And I don't know if people on Zoom have it, is it?
They do not.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well,
Can we, I thought there was a camera that you could zoom down on it or.
Share it. 'cause I got it.
okay.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
So you could kind of key up Stella's too. Oh, you got it right there.
Yep, that was a good overview. Yeah.
Okay, so what I did is I took the 5 large counties in eastern Iowa. Lynn, Scott, Johnson, Blackhawk, and Dubuque. And they range from 225,000 down to 97,000. I just took a look at the budgets. And I had done this back in I had done this quite a while ago.
I remember that. Yeah.
And what I did this time is I took a look at the health department and looked at the number of people in each health department. And you can see that Lynn County, Scott County, Johnson County, and Blackhawk County all have in the area of between 45 and 50 people. Dubuque, if we have all of our positions filled, we would have 4. Now, if you take Stacy's group, the VNA, I think she told us there were 8.1 or 8 point something full-time equivalents devoted to health department work. So that would make those numbers 12, and the population per health department employee would drop that from 24,000 down to 8,000. But you can still see that these people are spread a lot thinner in Dubuque than they are in the other counties. And when you look at the budget per county citizen, Dubuque gets about $13 a head. You know, $40 in Scott County, 37, 29 in Lynn County. The reason I focused on these counties was that they are the ones closest to us. They seem to be in the ones that we were compared to.
Yeah.
So I sent this to Samantha and Sandra over the weekend. So they had some discussions with Stella, and then go to the next page.
And I think this is our key argument, that this is lean. I mean, even if we double the number, even if we go to 8, that gives us a total of 20. We are still half and below of what other counties of the same size have. I mean, that is something I would capitalize on, to say we're not asking for like staffing to whatever is possible. We are asking to staff to be able to do stuff that others do with way more people.
And that's exactly right, Hendrik. We're not asking to be staffed up like these other counties are.
Yeah.
We know the county can't afford it, or has decided they can't afford it. They've got other priorities. Well, Stella put these comparisons together. These are 5 counties in the 90 to 100,000 population. And again, you can see that Dubuque, in a lot of cases, falls way to the bottom. Story County, for example, contracts their entire public health function out to Mary Greeley Medical Center. The only thing they have is environmental. specialists and a half of an administrative person. So
the other part, not the additional staff on the 3.5 is covered by Mary Greeley, correct?
that's correct.
Yeah, so
Like
that,
the other 8.
Yeah.
For Dubuque.
Yeah.
So
Sam, can I ask, sorry, Tom, do you know if you go back one slide to the grants received on the 5 counties, the comparison, do you think, is it your perception that if we had more staff, we would have the ability to apply for more grants? Is it a capacity issue, or really that we're not being, I guess, grants aren't being given to us?
I don't think that it's grants aren't being given to us.
Okay.
Our department has never written for grants.
Yeah.
VNA does it.
the only grants we've really gone after are the state funded, the IDPH grants, grant to counties and things like that. You know, you can see 535,000 compared to 2 million. We've got a long way.
Right.
But there
But we
should
also
be
don't
grants.
have,
Yes,
I don't think we probably don't have staff to be actively, out there searching for grants and writing grant proposals, et cetera.
I don't know if we can fully answer that because we've never been fully staffed at 4 people. I think we had the capacity to do it. It wasn't being done, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yes.
that was our plan going back a couple of years, even when Samantha was hired, that part of her job would be writing grants. But that,
But very hard to do when you only have four people.
that's
100%.
right. You've never been able to have the time to focus on it. So those are the budget numbers I've got.
But even among the more size-wise, same as Dubuque, I don't understand Woodbury County, actually, they have a huge budget.
They,
Um,
all I was able to find on their website was that they have 10 managers in the public health department.
okay,
They must do all of what the VNA does for us, I imagine, so.
yeah, but yeah, because that's a huge amount of
And
grants.
63
But
employees.
even, well, I guess not Story and Dallas County, but even Potawatomi's grants are almost double
Yeah,
what Dubuque gets. But grants take a lot of time.
yeah.
It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy.
And
to
they do
write
have
grants.
14 staff there at Potawatomi.
And like, really that 4 is a misnomer because it was 3.5 until just recently.
Right.
Yeah.
So how could anybody?
Yeah.
And now we're down. We're not even at,
No,
so I think, yes, there's room to grow and there's room to,
So, did you do this, Samantha?
and
Samantha put this together in less than 24 hours, you guys, so thank you, Samantha.
Thank you. It helps clarify things.
Yeah.
yeah.
So when I started as a supervisor, when I was elected, there were, Tom, remember there were 2.5 people.
Yes.
2.5 people in the health department. I absolutely could not believe it. So we need to make changes to, the sanitarian. At this point, if we don't continue to make solid changes, we're going to get sued by the DNR, folks. The time is now, our back is against the wall to bring these changes forward. And if that's just basic Iowa code, public health, that, we can't look back. We've got to keep moving.
right. And something in the back of my mind, when I look at these, we're worth it. We deserve this.
The community deserves
Our
it.
citizens deserve this and they need it. Like I said, it is not a want. It is a need. And if it's to get us in compliance with Iowa code, that's a need. It's not a want. If it's in compliance to get us healthier citizens, longer life expectancies.
We're resilient to the next.
Resiliency.
Yeah.
And to get people to stay here and maintain our tax base, that's a need. And we're not gonna have that if we don't have the same kind of amenities that these other counties have and offer.
They're not luxuries,
No.
they're necessities.
One of the counties that used some of their ARPA funds for staff is Johnson County, and they have hired an additional chronic disease prevention specialist. And they now have 4 of those people on staff, and I have their job description. But I think that's kind of what we're getting to. We want some of these chronic disease, we want to be able to have an impact on those. And right now, our health department can't, and because of the availability of personnel. So I do think that's important, so.
I think that I read just in the TH that they rated the health of our community, and we did well in certain areas, but in certain areas we did really very poorly in terms of looking at all the counties in the state. And our county did very poorly with, I think, alcohol and substance abuse and obesity. There's work to be done.
Yeah, I think you were somewhat familiar with that study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the town, okay.
Yeah, the point I can remember off the top of my head is our need for mental health providers.
And again, it goes back to participation, communication, and partnerships, but we've got Loras College that offers master's degrees in counseling. And so, we as a department can go out and talk to people, go to high schools, go to colleges and say, hey, we need people in the healthcare field. And that doesn't necessarily mean physical health, but it also means behavioral health. And, when kids hear somebody who's got that degree, say that to them, and they think, well, that person believes in me, maybe I should try it. That goes a long way. So I just think that even as a board, we could do more to spread the word about public health.
Do you have any idea how many graduates Loras College has in that thing every year? Or-
I can find out.
I was just wondering, I mean. seems
Yeah.
like a-
Well, and Clark has a social work master's too. So
so
we've
there's-
got 2 behavioral health master's degrees in this city that we could tap into, but we're not.
Great. All right. Samantha, do you think there's anything else we should talk about as far as our joint meeting with the supervisors?
No, I can put together that PowerPoint and we can bring it back at the meeting on the 15th.
Okay.
If that will work.
And I just want to say to Samantha, I really do appreciate all this work that you put into this and the thought that you put into it. And I totally understand where you're coming from as far as maybe we shouldn't ask for the whole pie right now, I understand that. And I appreciate the work that you put into it and the thought you put into it. And I think it's going to help us going forward. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate seeing the different options that were thought out.
But I think that's where your law background comes in handy, Sandra, because you know how to argue a case.
True.
So,
I find
again,
myself falling into that.
It's
every
our
once in a while.
specialty.
That's okay.
And I thank you
Okay.
for that because it kind of changed my mind too. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll
yeah,
just
yeah,
toss
no,
that.
no,
and
I-
start it.
Yeah, no, right.
Right, well, thank you.
But that's what discussion's about.
Right. All right, so let me look at the agenda here. Our next meeting has a question mark, but I believe that our next meeting will be it will be the regular scheduled meeting on June 15th at 4:30.
And then the expectation is that we kind of come there with an idea of what we're going to present on the 20th, correct?
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Just to kind of review it with the whole group.
Should we, if we do put together a short presentation, should we send it to Samantha so she
Yeah, that's what I
can?
was gonna say.
I think that's a good idea.
And send your CV or resume to include as well.
I don't have one. so.
Dust it off.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea. On that little thing, there is, we are listed on the Dubuque County site as the Board of Health members. And what I'd like to have everyone send to Samantha how they like to be identified officially, like what initials do you like behind or in front of your name? Because I think we should add those,
Yeah.
our credentials to the
Yeah.
website, Okay, so just sometime when you get a minute, send those over to Samantha and we'll get those added to the website. All right, so at this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are of concern to that person and which are not agenda items. Please raise your hand on Zoom or in the room, state your name and home address. Please be aware that the board is limited in their ability to respond to such inquiries, and the Iowa Code prohibits the board from deliberating or acting on items not appearing on the agenda. Individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes. Does anybody have any comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move
Motion.
we adjourn.
Okay, there's been a motion by Amy and a second by Dr. Schultz to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, we are adjourned until our next regular meeting on June 15th.
Thank you,
all.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha.
Thank you, Samantha.